putting a pillow against my back.
Okay, we are recording. Now, how are you today?
Hi, Stu. I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Thank you for having me on here. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Do you know what? You're probably about, I've done 470 something of these podcasts now, and I think you're like the third person that's ever gone, yeah, I'm well. Like, how are you? Not many people ask me back, so thank you.
Oh, oh, that's nice. Well, it's always important to ask someone back, I always think.
Of course it is. Of course it is. All right. Well, look, before we get onto your playlist today, now, I'm always interested to kind of, I guess it starts on a bit of a negative tip, but to cast your mind back to lockdown and just tell me how that 18 months affected you personally and creatively.
Um, that's a great question. So I think to start with creatively, because I think that's the easier one to answer, it was actually obviously taking into account what everyone was going through and how difficult it was for most or for many people. I actually found that time incredibly useful because everything just stopped. And so I thought, okay, I'm never going to get this opportunity again to actually just work on stuff that I would never usually have the time to do.
Yeah.
So I read loads of, I'm an actor and a writer, so I read loads and loads of plays. I learned a poem a week. I learned seven Shakespeare speeches, and I read some. Yeah, like basically, it just it gave me the time to do things that I would just never have the time to do normally. So I just felt like I sort of sharpened up my knowledge um and just yeah took a step back to do some homework.
Was that like a knee jerk response to the situation, or was there a period of time for you where, like a lot of us, when it first kind of got thrust upon us, it was like, oh, it's glorious sunshine, and we haven't got to do anything, and we've got to stay indoors and sit in the garden or sit over a park. This is quite nice. And like, how long was it if that happened? Did that kind of realization that, oh, hang on, this could really impact on your industry and your work, like I need to kind of utilize this time.
immediately immediately because it already was going south before we even went into, I mean, as in there were already kind of warnings.
Yeah,
So yeah, the knee jerk happened almost immediately. I just thought, okay, if I don't put my head in something, I'll go crazy.
yeah.
um because I'm not like that. I have to be active all the time and to be busy. I've always been like that, and so
Yeah.
immediately I was like, right, I've just got to channel this into something useful.
And
um
and as well as throwing yourself into that and keeping the sort of creative element of your brain active and how did you find it though, like personally?
oh god, sorry, that's annoying. I'll turn off my messages. How did I find it? I found it hard. I think, like many people, I found it really hard. I found a mixture actually. In some ways, it was incredibly cathartic because I lived with my mum the whole time, and I've never ever lived with my mum full time. And so that was quite amazing for both of us.
Was that okay? Because that, I guess, can be testing, can't it, if you've not sort
It
of lived with someone in that kind of close proximity.
Yeah, it really, really can. Well, because my parents split up when I was little, so I've always lived in two places all at the same time. So my mum has never had me to herself, and so likewise with my dad. Well, for the first two years, that was the case, but then afterwards it wasn't. So actually, it was really nice for both of us because I had this real concentrated, intense time with my mum that I never got through childhood, and so that was lovely. And I think after a while the anxiety, I think for at the beginning I was like, oh my god, I'm never going to work, like the whole industry shut down and what's going to happen. And I had a film that I just done that was coming out and there were big problems with that. And but actually once I kind of just accepted that, okay, no one's moving.
Sure.
We're all in this traffic jam. No one in the industry is going anywhere. It's just like we've just pressed pause, then I just sort of sat into it and it was okay.
Let's talk records. Now
Woo.
tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please?
So the song that I've picked is Barbara O'Reilly by The Who. And that's never changed. That answer has never changed from the age of about 11. So
it's really weird. Like in the last week, in this week, like you're the second episode I've done. And when I set this podcast up a few years back, I told you, I've done hundreds of these. When I set this up and I come up with this question, I thought the two most common answers were going to be Hard Day's Night by the Beatles and Barbara O'Reilly. Nobody ever chose it. Somebody chose Hard Day's Night yesterday, and you've chose Barbara O'Reilly today.
oh.
And it's like, finally we can get to talk about this incredible record that's just got the best intro ever.
It does. It really does. Yeah.
How did you discover that at 11 years of age?
My dad played it to me in the car. And I just remember being like, I'm a big fan of electronic music. And I think that might be where it started. Because I was sort of sitting in the car and I just went, oh, what is this? What's this sound? I don't understand. Like, this is crazy. This is making me feel really like all these feelings. And it started from that moment. I remember just being in the car with my dad, and it's so funny because this is the song I picked actually from those car journeys, because actually I really wanted to put Bob Dylan in my song list, and I couldn't find. It was like so difficult. I was like trying to kind of like, oh, I got in Bob Dylan, where can I do it? And I couldn't do it. But yeah, so Barbara O'Reilly was when I was 11. Sat in my dad's car. He put it on, and I was like, "Fuck, this is fucking amazing."
It's different level. I'll tell you what, right? If you get a chance, go and have a look, because I'm a huge fan of mixed martial arts and the UFC. Do you know much about that at all?
No.
So it's just guys and girls just scrapping in a cage, and whenever they put these events on at the O2 or wherever they put them on in the world, the bit before the main fight starts, they shut all the lights off in the O2, and you hear ticka 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 ticka, and Barbara O'Reilly starts, and then they put this huge montage on all the screens around the UFC of all these iconic fighters like Ronda Rousey walking out, and all of them making their walk to the octagon. It's like I've got goosebumps saying it now. And then when the guitar comes, you see the big punches being thrown and these epic sort of scraps, and it's the most amazing. It's better than the actual event itself. The kind of little montage before, because of that music. That music's so powerful and evocative, and that arpeggio electronic sound that you talk about is so amazing. And then when you get that chime of Pete Townsend, oh my God, it's amazing.
It's theatrical as well. I think it transports you to be in a really, or me anyway, a really theatrical mood.
Yeah.
So if I'm listening to it walking down the street, I'm like, yeah.
See, I'm not an actor, but I'm always interested to ask actors this. When you got your iPod on, or people haven't got iPods anymore, have they? They've just got iPhones.
My iPod Classic broke, and it was really gutting. I mean, there are worse things to happen in the world, of course.
That's up there.
It broke. I was actually pretty devastated.
When you're walking down the street, when you're on the tube, whatever you're doing with your headphones on and your music on, are you in your own little music video?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. But I have different music videos.
Like, come on, let's talk about them then.
Do I want to talk about them? Like it's like a music video. It can be a music video, but it's also like sometimes it can be that, but it can change, and might be like your idealized self at that moment, or it might be like your dreams. I feel like my dreams kind of float around when my favorite music's on, and I kind of envision my dreams, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense, and it's way better than mine. I just kind of, look a little bit somber out of the window of the train, just picture that everybody's just watching me. Or obviously I'm Richard Ashcroft in the Bittersweet Symphony video, just walking down the street and everyone's getting out of my way. All right. I mean, I want to ask you something about you know, you said that you was exposed to a lot of music in your
Mm.
dad's car. Was was home musical?
Very, very musical, and quite contrasting in the sense that my dad, it was sort of 60s rocker um stuff. So yeah, like I got introduced to the Who. It's so funny. So I have two older brothers on my dad's side, and we all went through the same relationship with Bob Dylan, which was he'd play because Bob Dylan was sort of the main feature of our childhoods, and he'd play Bob, and we just couldn't get his voice, couldn't get it. But what is this? This is ridiculous. This is awful. What's going on? And then as soon as we all hit a certain point, it was like, wow, this is incredible. Like,
Yeah,
this is the best music I've ever heard in my life. And we all went through this kind of transformation. And now, yeah, it's like, we're all ride or die Dylan fans. So,
wonderful.
but then but being in my mum's car, there was lots of music going on in cars. It was Blur and Oasis and James and Atomic Kitten and that sort of thing.
Mm.
So it was sort of Britpop versus, but yeah, versus Bob and the Who and the Beatles and
Yeah, that's
uh
a lovely little hybrid though to get exposed to, isn't it? That's a real good cross section.
yeah, it is actually. It's really, really nice. And also there was a bit of folk in there as well, bit of Fairport Convention and
Lovely,
Steely Dan and stuff like that and Bellowhead, and yeah, so it was like a nice sort of whirlwind of stuff.
lovely. Well, I'm going to take you back now for track two and ask you, please, now to tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Oh, this question was so hard to answer. I was agonizing over this one. I was like, what should I choose? But then I really just had to be truthful and go for I'm With You by Avril Lavigne.
Mm-hmm.
Because Avril Lavigne is a legend. And I think growing up in the mid to early noughties, like that was what every 10-year-old girl was listening to.
Yeah,
Because you had this kind of grungy, emotional, cool, sort of armband wearing, just like amazing Canadian like rock star that just sang these really sort of deep tunes. And it was like it just fulfilled all my needs at that time. Took me to sort of, I used to sort of just go to all these places in my head when I'd listen to her. And I think with I'm With You, it's just a beautifully crafted song, and it goes to lots of different places. And I've also always been a bit of a sucker for violin and string
yeah.
usage. So like Phoebe Bridgers uses a lot of strings, and I'm just gone. I'm putty, and that's it. And I felt like Avril Lavigne was my first introduction to that. And I just remember with I'm With You, it was like, yeah, like I was just like, I can be sad and I can be emotional. I can yearn and pine and just sort of be my authentic self.
So, so where was all this happening? Where was growing up now?
uh, so again, Avril Lavigne was really happening in the car. So I have two younger sisters. I have lots of siblings, but I have two younger sisters, and we were really, really into Avril Lavigne. So we used to put the CD on. We used to listen to it from the beginning to the end, and we'd all just stare out the window and kind of just go into this really like um slightly self-indulgent dreamlike space. But we were like ranging from 6 till 11. But growing
Where,
up,
where was home?
sorry, that was not answering a question. Growing up was North London, so around my mum grew up. I grew up in sort of Hampstead, Gospel Oak area with my mum, and then my dad, it was Haringey, Kentish Town. I moved around a lot, but mostly Haringey, Green Lanes, that area.
What
Um,
memories of them?
yeah, really fond memories. Just trying to think, like, yeah, they were both lovely places to grow up. Actually, I was really lucky. There were lots of lovely parks. There were lots of things to do. Uh, yeah, it's a big part of who I am. I think North London.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about the song that reminds you of your time at school, please, Nell.
So the song that reminds me of my time at school was "I've Got Your Number" by Passion Pit.
Shout out Passion Pit. Love
Shout
that.
Passion Pit were my band when I was at school, secondary school. Like they, that was just what I listened to. That's what I identify with. I've seen them 3 times. Um, and then yeah, it was like my carry on of electronic music, I think. Yeah.
That's a really nice kind of. It's a sort of further lean into electronic music, but still kind of retaining some, jangly indie kind of edge as
Yeah,
well, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. And that his voice, I've completely forgotten the lead singer's name now, but the kind of the I think the power in his voice, and how high it would go. I just remember being
Yeah.
like, this is amazing. And every song sounded different, and they were amazing live. And I think it really spoke to my angsty, um, sensitive little soul as a 15-year-old.
Did you enjoy school?
Oh, great question. Primary school I really struggled with. I did enjoy parts of it, like I enjoyed acting when I got to be in school plays. Um, but I really did struggle some with parts of my learning. So I really struggled with maths. And yeah, so that was really hard because actually when you're in primary school, when I was growing up in primary school, there were just, you had maths and English, and then you did a few, but mostly it was those 2 things. So if you kind of weren't, if you were struggling with one of them, the experience as a whole
Yeah.
was quite sort of, well, I found it anyway, quite overwhelming. So I didn't love primary school because I did struggle in sort of the education department. But then I did enjoy secondary school. I had great mates who I have today. I've got 5 best friends who I will have forever and ever. And that's who I really thank my school time for. And I had some really great teachers that really believed in me and pushed me, and that was really, really nice. And actually, I think by the time I got to A level, um, I got to drop all the stuff that I didn't like. And I think my brain very much works like that. It will like hyper focus and be passionate. And if it's not interested in something, it just won't be interested. So stuff like, I can't think, stuff like maths and chemistry, as soon as I got to leave that behind and I could just do things that I could genuinely get my head round, and like history and drama and English, stories and storytelling, all those things are fun. Are you
Sorry,
all
I'm
right?
dying. I'm coughing away. Bit of
Thank
coffee went
you.
down the wrong arm. Sorry now.
Thank you. Oh, I hate that when that happens. It is the worst
I was
feeling.
trying to style it out, but I was just thinking, no, I've got to cough. To
It's the
apologise.
worst feeling. No, 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 you poor thing.
So, did you know what you wanted to be when you was at school?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did know I wanted to be an actor. I think I knew that sort of somewhere, and then it kind of came into play when I started studying.
Was it? You said there were some teachers that really supported what you done. Was that the more creative
Mm.
teachers that were kind of pushing
Yeah,
you for what you wanted to do?
definitely, definitely. And they were, um, yeah, they were just, not that the other teachers weren't. We just spoke in a different language, but these
Yeah.
particular teachers, they were really interested in what I wanted to do and what I had to say and the projects I wanted to explore. And yeah, they were great.
Did it? Did it feel like it was possible to achieve success and become an actor? Because for most young kids at school, they'll look at what they see on the TV and what they see at the cinema, and it's a very select few people sort of get to that point. And did it always feel like, oh, I can do this?
Mm, I don't know. I think in many ways I did because my dad and my stepmom and my brothers they're all in the creative industry in some area. So I knew that I could do it. Like I could be a freelancer. And obviously it was easier for me because I had people in my family that did it. And
Yeah.
so I automatically am more privileged. Um but then there's also that element that's not. I mean, even now, I don't think I can do it sometimes.
What
Like,
you're saying, imposter syndrome?
yeah, like I guess so. But also, it's like, yeah, it's imposter syndrome, and it's also like syndrome. Like sometimes you can feel fine and feel really good, and then other times you're like, oh, actually, maybe I can't do this, and maybe this isn't going to work, and maybe I'm not ever going to work again, or you just go into these funny little tunnels. So I don't know if for someone like me that ever stops.
But that's got to be. I think that's quite healthy. I think
Yeah.
if you just think everything's going to be incredible and I'm going to smash everything, then that's quite narcissistic, isn't it? I think like to have that kind of, oh well, look, I'm not sure if that was the best thing I could do today, or I'm not sure if this is going exactly like that's normal, isn't it? I think anyway. That's certainly how I am.
Oh God, yeah, I agree. I think that's normal too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
those kind of sort of finishing school and A levels and pursuing acting. How confident was you
What? Sorry.
as a person? Was you a confident kid?
Um, I think as most people are, and something I'm trying to come to terms with more is I think I was a real mixture. And I think that we are as people, or I'm starting to believe that we are actually we're attention, we're like, we've got opposites inside us. Like we're made up of lots of different components. So I feel like at points I was really confident, like cocky, confident, naughty. I was very naughty at school. Um, I'd like to think that I never bullied anyone, or I wasn't that kind of naughty. It was more like just playing up with teachers and talking and just being a bit disruptive. And so yeah, in many ways I was confident. I loved making people laugh.
Yeah.
And I liked being funny and
Do you like attention?
oh God, of course. Bloody like attention, you know what I mean? But then actually also I think there was a part of me that wasn't very confident and was, could get anxious and could get a bit unsure of themselves, and I still can. So I think it's like I've got a real big mixture in there. Sometimes I can, but then I think what actually drives me through is that I really love working with people, and my identity really feels like it kind of is exists in my relationships, if that makes sense. So I always need to be seeing my
Yeah.
friend. I love being with my partner. I love meeting new people, and I think that's part of being in this industry, is working with people and working
Yeah.
in a company so actually, even though I can feel or did feel insecure at times and not confident, I think also at the same time my confidence of people and my ability to chat is why I probably am still acting now.
Yeah. Tell me about the first record you remember buying.
So I went through a massive phase as a teenager of buying LP records. I collected.
Okay.
My dad got me a record player, and so I collected all these brilliant, beautiful records. And to be honest, because you had because everyone had an iPod,
Mhm.
you had it to hand, you had your music to hand, and obviously listening to a record, it sounds so much more different, and it sounds beautiful and wonderful. I feel like a big part of, if I was going to be totally honest, a big part of my pretentious 15-year-old self was just the beautiful records
Yeah.
themselves, like the big squares, the beautiful design, the cardboard.
You can really get to. Uh, I think you don't really get to see the beauty of record sleeves anymore when it's just on your Spotify on your phone or whatever. Whereas
Oh,
you've got that great big 12-inch sleeve in your hand, you get to see the beauty of it.
yeah, they're stunning, and even the discs themselves are stunning. Like I remember I had an XX one from their, what was their white album called? Angels. Is it
Mm.
Angels?
It was,
And
yeah.
it was see-through. And I was like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's
Their
see-through.
artwork's always incredible as well, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll get onto the XX a little later.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we haven't actually said what the track
Oh,
was.
oh yeah, sorry. So my record is The Suburbs, Arcade Fire. The song specifically is Sprawl 2. So I remember finding that record, I can't even remember what the shop was now in London. and that beautiful cover, the sort of the greens and the street, and it's all kind of illustrated, and I was just like, I have to have that. I have to have it. I don't think I even had the record player at that time. I was like, I just have to have that, whatever that is.
How old would you have been then?
Uh, uh, when did that come out? Because I actually saw Arcade Fire in Hyde Park. So when was that? Oh my God, maybe 15? I was 15, 14, 15, something like that.
So you sound like you was a bit of an indie kid around that time.
I was a massive indie kid.
I mean, it's a good time to be an indie kid then, because there was some incredible music coming out then.
Amazing. I know. Amazing music. Yeah. Very, very lucky. Very lucky. Yeah.
I touched on confidence a moment ago and asked you about that. And you've chosen, as I mentioned, an incredible competitive and tough industry to pursue, and to see the success that you've had. Tell me, confidence aside, tell me about how driven you are now.
Oh wow. Um, yeah, I'm pretty driven. I think you sort of have to be. I think you have to really, really want it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it
Yeah.
because there's just, I think there's so much competition and you have to get used to being told no a lot. Why would you do that if you weren't in it for the long haul? Why would anyone
Yeah.
do that for themselves? So yeah, absolutely. Like, and I like being driven as well because I think when I'm not driven or I don't have a purpose, I get down and I get listless, and actually it's makes me feel good.
You think that's a family trait, the drive?
Um, uh, yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. And I think actually another aspect of that is that I'm lucky that I have parents that love what they do, and that they work is like a huge part of their life. And I'm not saying that should be for anyone, for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that is the be all and end all. Nor should it be. I think there are things that are, you know, more important,
Yeah.
like our human connection and our kindness and all that stuff. But I think because, sorry, to go back to it, because I had a mum and dad who loved their jobs and it was so much part of who they were. Um, uh, I I can see their drive through their passion.
Yeah.
And so I think if you grow up around that, it's helpful. Not all the time. And I'm sure that, I mean, there must be so many people that have incredible drive and their parents might have hated their jobs or one of their parents might have, all that stuff. But from my personal experience, I think having all my, I say all my parents, my step parents too, all of them having jobs that they really love and care about. I think that's definitely that's shown me how it can work.
Tell me, please, Nell, the song we're going to go clubbing now. Let's soundtrack your time clubbing, please.
You're going to be disappointed because it wasn't like a club song. It's not a club song. I was arming and ahhing between being really going really dialing it back to my when I used to go raving, which would be a lot of dubstep.
Mm-hmm.
Dubstep was a big, but I didn't want to do that because I just didn't want to put anyone through that. So actually, I'm going to go very close to my heart, and I'm going to choose "Edge of 17" by Stevie Nicks, which is obviously a banger, and it's what me and my best mate at uni used to listen to before we went clubbing.
Yeah.
So we used to put that on, and then we used to like dance around the room like eagles. We used to put our like arms in the air. It was really weird. Anyway, I don't want to. We just
What
used
were
to
you
do.
doing? Getting your Stevie Nicks on,
Yeah,
like because
yeah,
that's. I mean, she's just phenomenal to watch on stage, and
yeah,
that song is as close to perfect as it gets, right?
yeah. Incredible,
That's got a
incredible.
great intro as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, another. Basically, anything that is slightly like moody and you're gonna be in for a ride.
Yeah.
It's like I nearly chose actually the best opening, Another Girl, Another Planet by the only,
Oh,
again, like, that was between that and Barbara Ryan, and I was really agonizing. I had to go
yeah.
from the heart and go for the Who,
Wonderful.
but the same sort with Stevie Nicks is that opening, you're just like, oh wow.
Love it. Love it. Um, all right. Well, I'm going to take you home now. And for track 6, now tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
I think I'd have to go for Jamie XX.
Wonderful.
And there's an album which is with Gil Scott Heron and Jamie XX called We're New Here. And for what I know about Gil Scott Heron, he was is he dead?
He's dead, yeah.
He's dead, okay. Um but is a spoken word poet and American jazz musician, and he Jamie XX made this album, and there's a song in there called Running, and it just really makes me think about London. And I think the whole idea of we're new, I mean, I know it's about, I mean, they mention New York a lot on the album, and I think that, so obviously we're not in New York, we're in London, and about what a big city is like and what it can feel like for certain people. And I think that's quite, I feel like that about London, that London has can be an incredibly rewarding place, but it can also be an incredibly hostile place, and it's hard for lots of people that live here or move here, or it's not always the best, but also it is a beautiful, brilliant place, and it is my home.
Could you ever see yourself leaving London, or because the reason I set this podcast up initially was a good friend of mine is a musician who lives out here in Essex, former musician called Scroobius Pip.
Oh my God, cool. Scroobius Pip was a massive hero of mine growing up.
Okay.
That's crazy. That is so crazy. Oh my God.
So Pip lives up the road, and the whole reason I podcast is just through Pip becoming a very successful podcaster, but one of the things that I was always fascinated by was when people would say to Pip, like, do you live in London? And he's like, no, I live in Essex. And it's like, are you going to move to London? No, I'll just get on a train. It's only half hour. Yeah, I know, but if if you're part of the music industry, like, move to London, right? And so I'm always intrigued as to that draw. And obviously, you've been born and bred in London, but I've spoke to so many actors and musicians that got to sort of 17, 18 and relocated to London for work. Is it work that keeps you there? Is it family, or all of those things together? Or is there just a real beautiful love of London?
I think it's like a big mixture of the three, to be honest. Like, it's my home. I grew up here. I love it. And there's just some things that are very, very London that I would really miss if I lived somewhere else.
What would that be?
I think the river. I think the Thames. I think something like, I know that sounds like, but like the South Bank, and I don't know, like grey pavements, and I don't know, there are just some things that are just, oh yeah, I would really, really miss. But then at the same time, I feel like when I grow up and get a bit older, I wouldn't mind moving out of London. It's not something that I'd be totally against.
Yeah. Okay. Last track. You can play tastemaker now, and an influencer. A song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear, please, Nell.
This is my favorite one, so I was really looking forward to answering this one. The song and artist that I really want other people to hear is a brilliant musician and singer called Ella Clayton, and it's her single Murmurations. And that actually is all about, well, the setting is Brighton, but she's one of my best mates, and she is an incredible artist, and her storytelling through her songs and her voice is just exceptional. And I
voice is stunning now.
Oh yeah, isn't it? I know. There's nothing like it. There's no one out there like her. I really believe that.
Yeah, it's truly beautiful. It really is. Now we make it really easy for people to go and listen to that, because we put together a little Spotify playlist to accompany the podcast with that track and all of the tracks that you've chosen today. I tell you what, I'm going to throw a Dylan track on there as well, because I know you was trying to thumb him in there some way.
Thank you so much.
What Dylan track should we throw on there? Now I've put you on the spot. It's only got about 6 million. Like, which one shall I put on?
Can I please have Emotionally Yours?
Oh, good shout. Yes, you can, Nell. Now, as we're entering the, we're recording this, a few weeks before Christmas, and we're looking at what's hopefully going to be a really happy and healthy 2023, and hopefully COVID will become a distant memory, and the acting industry is back where it belongs, and gigs are happening, and festivals and clubs are open, and it's a thriving creative world again. What are you looking forward to next year, personally, and what's going to be happening professionally?
Oh, okay. What am I looking forward to next year personally? Oh my God, that's actually really hard. I'm actually going to go to Scotland in
Oh,
July.
wonderful. Where are you going?
I'm really, really excited about that. Somewhere called Arisaig.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the film Local Hero?
I have.
So you know the beach
Yes.
yeah, so that's filmed where I'm going.
Oh, wonderful. It's
Yes.
the That's where I'm retiring, Scotland.
Is it?
That's where that is like where I want to go. It's the most beautiful place on the planet. I adore Scotland.
Yeah.
It's stunning. Oh, I'm jealous. I'm very
Yeah,
jealous.
I'm really excited about that. I'm very, very excited.
Creatively, what's happening?
So I just got a sorry, onto a program at BAFTA called BAFTA Breakthrough, which they do every year, and they pick 20 people they BAFTA consider to be having a breakout year, and that ranges from producers and directors and writers and actors and gamers and all sorts, composers, and we basically just get like a year of mentorship. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where that goes and who I meet, and the fun that can be had.
Wonderful. I want to mention Sweetheart because it blew me away. I'm friends with Joe Hartley, and so
Oh,
it was who's one of the loveliest people I've ever met.
yeah.
Uh, and I put the film on, and it blew me away, and I was like, I need to reach out to this actor because that film blew me away. And if people haven't seen it, go and watch it. But as well as how incredible that film is, the music in that film is wonderful.
It is wonderful, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah, I know. The toy drum, and actually Ella's in there as well.
mm,
Her song Only Bodies is in there.
yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible. Like the menstrual cramps, porridge radio, cigarettes after sex. I mean, it's basically like the coolest
It
playlist
really is.
ever.
Literally, as much as I was watching the film and I was engrossed in it, I just kept going, Siri, what is this track? And I was just constantly.
Spamming it like, it's so good.
Oh, wonderful. Well, look, now, if people want to keep up to speed with everything that you're up to, where's the best place to keep up with all things Nell
Instagram.
Barlow?
Instagram. It's
Instagram.
Nell. Actually, what is it? It's I think it's Barlow underscore Nell.
Well,
Um,
if it's all right with you, when this comes out, we'll tag you in it. So if people aren't following you already, then they can go and
Thank you
do
so
that.
much. That'd be great. Yeah, it's Barlow. Sorry, just that's what I was looking at. Yeah, Barlow underscore Nell. So you can find.
Wonderful. Nell, thank you so much for today. It's been a real joy. Thank you.
It's been such a lovely joy to talk to you, and thank you for having me, Stu. And have a lovely day.
Absolute pleasure. I'm going to press stop. Don't go anywhere.